talk about celebrate recovery. I am making this video to celebrate this December 2024, 12 years of freedom from drug addiction. It's well overdue a video about it and my testimony. Obviously this is only part of it, but I am really grateful to God for delivering me, and it's the reason why I'm making this video as a gratitude to the Lord and to testify of His doing. The first thing I want to say is that an addict will always say that they are not addicted. They can stop whenever they want to. They just don't want to do it right now. So that was me. I used to think that I wasn't addicted when I really was in desperate need of help. I think I fell into drugs because, starting with my teenager years, I went through some very tough times. I came to the United States when I was 13. My grandfather passed about 3 months after we moved here, my family and I. Fast forward 3 years, when I was 16, my father got very sick and he became totally disabled. My mom and my sister and I, we had to take care of my dad. He was like a baby at this point, but an adult, so we had to feed him, we had to bathe him, and so on. So that was very tough for a teenager, but I didn't use any drugs until I was actually 21. My father was still very sick and close to dying. Actually, he died when I was 21 years old. And I was going to a technical school for massage therapy, and I had a friend who smoked, and friend from school, and I used to always see him smoking, and he used to always ask if I wanted to do it, and I was no. I had never tried it before, and one day for some reason I said yes. So I tried it and nothing happened that first time. Some days went by, I went back to school, and he offered again, and the other time I said, well, nothing happened the first time, so nothing's gonna happen. So I smoked the second time, and my first time experience was terrible, was freaky. I wasn't expecting. I was expecting for the same thing to happen the first time, nothing. So I smoked and I got high. We went to walking distance to give him something to eat. And as I walked into that place, I sat down, and all of a sudden I felt like the music got super loud, and I felt like I could hear my heart beating so hard. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, I'm about to have a heart attack. Am I gonna die? I was freaking out for a while, and then he grabbed his food and he said, come on, let's go. And once he said that, it was like I snapped out of it. We walked away, and I told him I couldn't go back to class. I was feeling so bad. I got in, I went to my car, I told him to get my things in the class. I didn't even want to go back in the classroom. I went straight to my car, I sat down, I tried to lean back, I tried to relax, and all of a sudden I felt myself up by the windshield, and I'll be like, what am I doing? I leaned back again. I don't know how long later, maybe a few minutes, I'll be back by the windshield again. Whatever will call my attention, maybe somebody walking by or an alarm that went off in the car, anything. But that just kept happening over and over again. So I decided to call a friend to come help me because I was freaking out. This friend came. He started driving my car around, and every time he was going the same road, but I couldn't even tell where we were. So I kept asking him, where are you taking me? Where are you taking me? Over and over again. He said, we were going around the same street. He grabbed me some fast food, something to eat. He was trying to calm me down and for me to get sober, again. But I was so terrified of even him, where are you taking me? I kept asking that all the time. The traumas and whatever things that had gone through, in my past, that I had gone through in my past. So that was my first time experience. Honestly, it was terrible. I forgot to mention that when I was in the car, I felt like things were poking me. I felt like I was maybe twitching a little bit. I felt like, honestly, like demons were messing with me. I did it a few more times, but no period of time, like months later. It's not like I got hooked right away. But the reason why I think I got hooked is because after my father passed, my mom went to stay in Brazil with my grandma at the time. My sister was in a bad relationship, going through a separation and eventually a divorce. And then she ended up going to Brazil too. I found myself alone. And I just started trying it again here and there until I was completely addicted, completely hooked to it. At first, my experiences were very weird. My temperature will go down, my body temperature. I would feel really cold. I wouldn't want to be outdoors. Even though I went outside to smoke, I'll quickly have to go back inside because I'll feel like there were shadows. I'll feel like I feel very exposed. So I usually went back inside. I hated doing anything in a group. Again, that would be, I'll feel exposed and vulnerable. So the most times I did it was with maybe me and a friend, and I would talk a lot. But the main reason why I think I got hooked is because after I went through these phases of traumatized and blah blah, I was always very creative, and I used to get inspiration from it. For music, I used to start making music in my head and kind of whispering, freestyling to myself, and the ideas will flow. So I think that's the reason why I really got hooked to it. I remember one day I was talking to a friend. She lived a state away, and she was asking me if I wasn't afraid of something happening and me being high, and I have my son, and maybe they taking my son away from me because of whatever situation. And she was just trying to get me to wake up. But unfortunately, once you are an addict, once you're addicted, you measure no consequence. You become very irresponsible, to the point where you can't say no to an offer, even though you're about to be in a car, you're about to drive your son, but someone offered. This happened to me where I went somewhere to pick something up, and I was offered, and then I smoked, and then I had to drive my son in that condition. First, I hated driving while under the influence. That's just not. And then two, I had my son with me, but again, once you're addicted, you measure no consequence. You become very, very irresponsible, and you can't say no to an offer. Now, I most definitely think that it's a spiritual experience when a person gets high. It definitely involves the spiritual realm. My first experience, I was aware of it even from my first experience when I felt the things touching me, and I felt like demons were messing with me. And the last time I actually asked the Lord to go through it with me. Like I said, this was December 2012, 12 years ago. I asked God, I told the Lord, no, this is going to be my last time, but please, Father, go through it with me. I don't want to go through this alone. And I smoked, and as soon as I got high, I saw myself with a being that was about twice my height, all dressed in white, a white being. We walked into an elevator, and I pressed the button to go down. And I could understand that what that meant was that I was going into a spiritual realm, in the high state, right, of the state of being high on drugs, but I was going down. I wasn't going up, be lifted up to a worship to the Lord. Nevertheless, it is a spiritual experience. God actually taught me different things in that period of time. I remember God telling me that while I was asleep, if I fall asleep with my TV on, I'm in control whatever I'm watching while I'm awake. But once I'm asleep, I'm not in control of what I was watching. And whatever was playing on TV, even though I'm asleep, that still influences me. That still gets to whoever is in that situation, So that was one thing that God taught me when I was high. Another thing was about music. Like I said, I used to get very creative and wanted to create music, and I used to be freestyling on myself, and all of a sudden I would say something, and I'm like, wait, that has double meaning. That could mean something good, but also if you look further, it can mean something else. Or freestyling, and then wait, I didn't say that. What? So God showed me how whenever I was high, the inspiration I was getting was not from God. It was not a divine inspiration. It was an inspiration where the enemy could literally whisper in my ear what to say, and without being, a devil worshiper or anything like that, I was still susceptible to hearing whatever he was trying to say, and use that in my own writing, my own lyric, and my own, influence my inspiration. And that's why one of the first things I did when I was coming back to the Lord, and I stopped using drugs, the very next thing was stop listening to secular music, because I realized then what it meant, and wonder how many people actually, just like me, were doing that and getting inspirations, and then they composing their songs, even though it's a romantic song or whatever, and it sounds pretty, but what is really behind them? What kind of inspiration or influence that's coming from? So I don't like to listen to secular music. I stopped, and that was part of me coming back to the Lord. Now, in order for me to stop, it actually took a friend of mine taking up on herself to be there for me and hold me accountable. I remember that for months, I suppose, I would smoke, and I would say, I need to stop. And this friend of mine, she's my best friend, and I was talking to her on the phone, and she said, every time, she didn't smoke, by the way, she said, every time you smoke, you always say that you need to stop. Do you want me to help you? And I said, yeah, please help me. She said, no, wait. If I'm gonna help you, you're going to stop. Do you want me to help you? And I said, yes. And, after that, I started my process. I eventually moved in with this friend, and it was a process. I probably smoked a few times, and then I stopped because she was holding me accountable every time. And I was very, very mad at my friend for for months. It took me about 6 months for me not to think about using it anymore. I would wake up thinking about it. I would go to work, and come back from work thinking about it. I'll go to bed thinking about it. For a long time, I was fighting it, and I was fighting also this anger towards my friend for, putting herself out there to help me quit smoking. And I am very grateful to her. I'm very grateful to God for allowing her in my life in such time of need to help me out of it, and for her perseverance. So shortly after that, about 7 months after I had quit, I had moved to a different state, and I was visiting at a family friend's house, and one of my friend from childhood, he called, he said, "Hey, let's hang out, let's go get something to eat." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, that's cool." I told him I know that he used to smoke. He actually started before me and continued after me, but I think that he's actually out of it. It's been a while that he's out of it now, and I thank God for that. But I was like, okay, yeah, let's go, but don't bring it around me. I don't smoke anymore. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to talk about it. Nothing. He's like, yeah, okay, don't worry about it. No problem. So we went out to eat. This other friend called him, someone who I also knew, but I wasn't very close with. And he met us at the restaurant. We ate. And on the way back, they were dropping me off. I'm sitting in the passenger seat, front passenger seat. My friend is driving. The other guy is in the back. And they talk about smoking. And he starts rolling a blunt in the back seat. And I'm thinking, wow, this is really about to happen. They're really about to smoke after I already told my friend that I quit and I don't want to be around it. I don't want to see it, nothing. And yeah, he rolled the blunt, he lit it up. And at that point, I just started looking up to the sky. I was watching the moon. And I just kept talking to God, asking God, pleading with God to please not give me the strength. Don't let me backslide. Don't let me grab this blunt. Don't let me, smoke, Lord. Please give me the strength. I just kept looking at the sky and talked to God all the way to where I was staying. I finally, got to the place. And when I went to bed, I remember crying myself to sleep that night because I felt so afraid, so scared that I was so close to that temptation. That test was really tough, but I thank God that He gave me the strength to not backslide, to not fall. Fast forward 3 years later, I was out with my cousin and a friend from Brazil. We went out, and then we went to this people's house, and at that point I was already working on some music. I already had my walk with the Lord, so I'm working on things for the Lord, and I'm so excited about it. So I started talking to this guy and telling him about this project and the idea for this song and this and that. And close to us were some people that were smoking weed, and I saw that, but I was so into what I was telling him and my project and this dream and this and that. Anyways, that party, we left that place. We went to, I went back home, and in the morning, the Holy Spirit talked to me and said, "Did you realize that those people were smoking right there by you, and it didn't faze you at all? It didn't bother you? You didn't feel tempted or drawn to it at all?" And I was like, wow, thank God. I was really happy because I had then realized that God has delivered me. The old things have passed away, like the Bible says. So I went from not being able to say no, an addict, irresponsible, to crying myself to sleep because I was so afraid whether I'm a fall or not, to not even fazing me, not bothering me at all if someone was doing it or not. It wouldn't affect me personally. the last thing I want to share is that one of the times I got high, I had a little recording device, and so I got high. My son was already asleep. I went to the closet in my room, closed the door, and I was with that recording, and I was saying, you know, Lord, the day you deliver me from this, the day that God delivers me from this, I'm gonna sing this song. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God, and all will see how great is our God. So I'm recording this video, paying this debt from that recording, the original recording. Unfortunately, I don't have it, but I am here with my wholehearted to share my testimony and pay this debt to God, and just express my gratitude, and to let you know that it is possible to, you know, get away from whatever addiction. God gives us the strength, and if you found any value with, you know, anything that I said, share it, comment. I will interact with you. I pray that God bring this to our awareness. I think nowadays is even harder because the state, made it legal, quote unquote. But even though it may be legal for the world or for country or state, we need to be thinking kingdom and what is right before God. You know, throughout the whole process, I loved God, but was I on His perfect will? I was not. So there are things that God had to do in me, work in me, but you have to allow that work from the Holy Spirit. So I just want to encourage you, if you're going through it, or your child or your parent or anybody that you know a loved one, there is hope. I love you. God bless you. Take care.